We're going to do it. Are you ready, Nom? Have you got your piece of paper? Have you got your Photoshop open? Are you ready to go? You ready to go? Yup. Right, let's go. Let's go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to start totally fresh. So, let's open up the logo that you gave me. So, on my screen, I will have the logo that you sent me. I believe it's still on my desktop. There it is. Okay. The PNG, which has got a transparent background. You can tell it's a transparent background because it's got the squares, and the squares tell you that the icon is transparent. You can also tell by moving it, moving it around. It kind of moves statically. Control Z is a great way to undo. Okay, so the request from Nom was she wanted the A to have a hue changing effect. So she wanted it to change a different hue, like from one hue to another, and kind of have like an effect to it. And it wanted to loop, so it looked kind of like a gradienty kind of hue, swirly kind of thing. And this is how we do it. I'm going to take you step by step. First thing you're going to want to do is create a duplicate of the A logo only, because we don't need any of the shadow. We just want the A. So what we use the magic wand tool, and we select the A. What I do then is I'm going to make a copy of the A only on a different layer. So I can Control C, Control V. Now I have a copy of just the A's. That's all I've got. I haven't got anything else but that, and then that's the shadow underneath it. Okay, next thing we want to do is create a gradient. So I haven't got the color codes that Nom gave me, but I know that it was red and it was blue. So we're going to make another layer that sits over the top, and we're going to add the gradient. So we're going to add red, like a red pinky color. So now what I'm going to do is add the gradient on this layer. So here we go. I'm going to add the gradient. I'll do it like that. Okay, so there's the gradient. Okay, and I've done it kind of at an angle, like one way. And then what I'm going to do is I make another layer, and I'm going to add a blue gradient. So obviously this isn't the colors you gave me, but I can't remember them off by heart. And then what I'm going to do on this layer is I'm going to do a gradient the other way, like that. Okay, so now you've got the two layers. We've got the purple, we've got the red, we've got the A's on their own, and we've got the A's with the shadow, all here. Now what we want to do is we want to cut the gradient into the A. Now, if you want to cut the gradient to the A, most people, if you're not, you don't know stuff about Photoshop, will try and select the A with the magic wand and then try and cut the shape out of the gradient. You can do that, but there's an easier way. What you do is if you hold left Alt and click in between the layers, a little box comes up with an arrow, and what that does is that cuts the image into that particular area. So you don't actually, as long as you cut the A's out, you've now got it already overlaid, and you can overlay the other overlay into that overlay as well. So we can overlay it again by pressing the left Alt and dropping it in, and that way we've got both of them on that channel. Nice. Okay, simple as that. Now let's start the animation process. So we bring up the timeline. It's in Windows, it's under timeline, and it will bring up this panel down here, which is our timeline panel. First thing you want to do is create the new timeline. So we're going to do that. We create a new timeline. First thing I would do is go to settings and change it from resolution 50 to resolution 100. That way you're going to get a clear example of what it's going to look like live, rather than like a lower resolution which can be a bit blurry on your eyes. As long as your process is good enough, you shouldn't have any problems running that. So let's have a look what we've got. The first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to look at the layers. Now we know that these are going to be fine as they are. We don't need to worry about that. In fact, if we want, we can lock them, because we're not going to touch them. We're not going to touch these bottom layers. The only ones we're interested in is the gradient. And we only have to be interested in one particular gradient. And that gradient is the one that's at the top, because that's the top layer. That's the one that people see. And in this case, that's layer 4. So what we're going to want to do is go down to the drop down in the corner is a little arrow at the very beginning, and when that drops down it gives you a selection of position, it gives you opacity, and it gives you style. We're only interested in one thing, and that's the opacity. So what we do is we click on the stopwatch of opacity, and we can set the opacity of that layer using the layers tool in the opacity at that key point, at that key frame. So I drop that to 0 like that, and then what I can do is I can scroll along the top to a point, say here. I can create another keyframe by clicking on the timer, or I can click on the circle in the middle of the two arrows, and at this point I can bring the opacity back up again, and then I can click a little bit further on, like say maybe the end, and I can click on that again for a keyframe, and I can bring the opacity down, and I'll just push that one into the middle somewhere. Now when I run this, it gives you the effect of the hue changing, because all it's doing is essentially getting rid of the resolution and bringing the resolution up back and showing the other hue that's underneath it. We're going to go save to web. We could do normal save, but we're going to go save to web. Try and make it as best as we can because we're going to be using it. So we've got GIF, okay? So it's loading up the GIF. It's going to give us a preview. Now when we run it, this one won't be too bad because it's not got that many frames to it, so you don't have to worry about it. But I've actually set this a little bit different on here, so I've actually got some of this set up. But what I find is by fiddling around with these, so if I take differ off and I take let's change that to like adaptive. Can you see how that it's changed? It's like a lower quality now. See how it looks really weird? I mean, you might like that effect. That might be the effect that you go with. You think, "Phew, I really like that. That's kind of a mistake that I like." But I don't like that. I want it more smooth. So by fiddling around with these, like the procedural, see it's still choppy, and by adding things like diffusion and patterns and the noise one, you can sometimes find the one that makes it look as close to the style of what you want. You're going to have to compromise a little bit. And then you can add things here like diffusion and stuff. That helps with the edges where you get that weird sharp edge. That can help with that as well. And also changing down here, you can mess around with these settings so you can get smoother and stuff. And things like that can help, again, improve the quality of the GIF out live. So what I tend to do is I tend to click on preview. It'll open it up in a browser, and we can actually see that live on a website. Okay, so now you can see this live. This is actually live, and it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good to me. It seems to have the same effect, and you can also go straight in here and actually copy the HTML if you wanted to drop that on your website. But you know, looks pretty good to me. So that's how you do an animated, like an animated hue on the logo. That's how you do it. You do the same principle if you just wanted the shadow. You just select the shadow and then create a duplicate and do exactly the same thing. You could have both of them having different colors if you wanted. You could do all kinds of things.